Welcome back, Rob here. So let's continue on. We now have, oops, I want to go here. We have an edit button that doesn't do anything yet, and we want to do something. In fact, we'd like the edit button to bring up another view controller that will allow us to scale the intensity. So let's go and do that. So we're going to start in the in the storyboard. And there's that edit button right there. And we're going to want to bring up a new view controller. So let's add a view controller into our storyboard. So I'll go view controller. There's one. Right. And we're going to have to give it a storyboard ID. I'll explain why we need that in a second. So I'm going to call this linear adjustable view controller. That works for me. I'm actually going to copy that to my clipboard. Right. Now, what are we going to put on here? We're going to have a label. So let's go label. This is going to be the name of the filter. So let's position that. Let's use the TIE fighter to pin it. Okay. Now, make note, drop down. I'd like to use what's called standard value, which basically gives us a standard kind of space in between things, between us and the top in this case. And it's not available because of this constraint to margin. So I'm going to uncheck that and say, yes, give me the standard value, and give me this standard value, and also give me this standard value. And I'm going to say update frame, sure, and add those constraints. And it actually repositions our label for us. So that's where the constraints say that that label should go in this approximation of the screen. Let's add a slider now. So UI slider. That'll work. And that's going to go about here. But actually we're going to do the old pin thing again. So TIE fighter. And we want same thing. Uncheck the constraints. Give us the standard value. So that's going to say this goes to the next, it's going to basically attach to the label by some standard distance. And this will attach us to the side. And this attaches it to the other side. We go down here. Actually, let's pretend I forgot to update frame. No, I'll just do it. Let's go update frames and container, add 3 constraints, and it actually updates. So that gives us a nice pleasing look. Okay, I can work with that. Now let's try to make our edit button bring us to this view controller. So now the easy way would probably be create a segue. But I'd like to have programmatic control, and here's why. For a linear filter, we want to go to this linear adjustable view controller. But for another filter, I may have to go to a totally different view controller. So we'd like the application to make that decision for us. So instead of doing the standard segue by dragging, we need some logic to actually, take control when we click the edit button. And we'll want the logic to be in the view controller itself. Reason being that we'll have to talk to our navigation controller to tell it to push to that other view. This will make sense momentarily. So let's use our assistant. We got the assistant here. Let's make sure we've got the select filter view controller. We do. I thought we did. Let's click on this edit button. Control drag it over here. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Wow, I held the option button down. My bad. Let's just do control undo just in case. Okay, let's try that again. Control drag. I certainly hope I actually have the edit button. No, I don't. I can see I have the constraint. Come on. Let's try it again. Control drag. That'll work. So we're going to say action. We're going to say on edit. That works for me. Yes, now looks good. So now we can do some code anytime someone clicks on that edit button. uh, what do we want to do? Well, if they click on the edit button, we know that we can transition to this other view controller. So let's do that. Let's go. Um, let's go and create that view controller. So to do that, we need to, the view controller is defined in the storyboard. So let's go storyboard, storyboard, and instantiate view controller. And this is getting pretty crowded, so I'm going to close this. I'm going to switch over to our select filters view controller. That's a little easier to read. Where were we? We were right here. Instantiate view controller, right. And we want to instantiate, there we go, had it in my clipboard, the linear adjustable view controller. Nice. And when that comes back, we'll just assign that to view controller. Okay, so that'll create the view controller. Now we have to transition to it. So we have to go to our navigation controller, and we have to say, what do we need to do? We need to push. That's right. We need to push view controller. That's the one. Okay. Why are we pushing? It's because we want the ability to come back. So we're saying change over to that, but also have a back button so we can come back. That works. So view controller is just called view controller. Animated is obviously true. Almost seems like they should have made that a default. And lastly, why do we have a error here? Let's find out. Oh, right. I was a little ahead of myself. I'm calling the wrong method. Instantiate view controller. I need the one. There's a different overload. So I'm going to delete this. Instantiate view controller with identifier. There we go. Da. And now that I've seen that, I'm just going to, let me just undo again. I'm going to copy that to my clipboard. And that's now on my clipboard. So I can do instantiate view controller with identifier, which is what I should have done in the first place, obviously. Okay, that's a little better. Now I think it's complaining about the view controller could be empty, I bet. Yeah, it's optional. So we're going to say, yeah, we know we got this view controller. If I've got a typo, we'll get a runtime error, but if not, this should always work. So let's give that a quick run. And we're expecting the edit button can now go to that view controller. So select filter, scale intensity, edit, and it got it to our select filter. Now things aren't fitting quite right. The navigation controller header is actually overlapping. We can see the bottom of the slider, but we can't see the label or anything else. And that's actually a pretty common problem. I'm just going to click stop, and we're going to go back to the storyboard, and we'll take a look at the properties for this view controller. And I think it's over here. And under extend edges, it says you can extend under the top bar and under the bottom bar. These are pretty goofy defaults if you ask me. So we're going to unclick both of them. And now it should actually fit properly. There we go. Scale intensity, edit. Nice. Oops. Yes. And we'll have to be careful with how we yes, how this works, but that basically it works. Don't worry, we will address that other issue you saw in just a moment. Awesome. Okay, I'll stop this video here, and in the next video we'll put the label up here and actually make it do something useful.